Hello, everyone. Your favorite crypto astrologer, Crypto Damas here, doing another YouTube update for all our friends and family out there. Thanks for joining us today. Going to talk about some of the upcoming astrology alignments over the next week or so. And we did a great update with S.J. Anderson in our last YouTube video. And we covered in detail this period that we're in right now. But I'm just going to do another update check-in and look at some of the aspects that are going on. We've got a lot of activity. Obviously, we just had the Mars Uranus conjunction, the Mars Uranus North Node conjunction that everyone was talking about. A lot of astrologers were talking about. And we did get a breakdown in the crypto markets there. We also saw the almost exact on the date of the Nancy Pelosi visit to Taiwan, which caused a lot of geopolitical ripples, as we said it would. And we also saw the drone strike on the Al-Qaeda commander, Zawahiri, in Afghanistan. So as I had said in our previous updates and on Twitter, that somebody was going to blow something up. And certainly this drone strike was a pretty big deal, as well as the trip by Pelosi. Go back and look at that last YouTube video. In fact, I specifically talked about China-Taiwan as a possibility that we could see, and geopolitical hotspots, especially the Ukraine as well, which could still happen. So that Mars is now separating from Uranus, and it's heading into a square with Saturn next week. And that one goes exact pretty soon here in the next couple of days. And that's a square between the malefics, and that's exact on August 7th. So we're going to be talking about that. And first of all, I just want to go to, hang on one second here. Let's see here. I just want to bring you guys to my website, astrocryptoreport.com, and go ahead and come and check that out. It's got all the information about Astro TA that we use with financial astrology for financial markets. And check out my Patreon group. This is really where I do some of the best, really detailed updates and reports on financial astrology for crypto markets. And there's a couple different levels there, but the $25 level gives you all access to all my content, including a monthly hour-and-a-half long live stream video. And I also, for students of financial astrology, I have some educational programs here, in particular this one, Complete Introduction to Financial Astrology combo package. And that has over 10 hours of instructional video information for $145. So that's a really good package too. So go ahead and check out that website, astrocryptoreport.com, for all my current informations and offerings. And hopefully I'm going to be teaching a new class on astrology in the fall. Let's go to my favorite astrology software here, which is the Luna Astrology. It's an online astrology software. And this is the current astrology picture right now. You can see here that Mars is separating from Uranus and the North Node. Now, Uranus is still conjunct the North Node, and you know, I think that really turned out to be quite bullish in July, at least for big tech and crypto making a rebound comeback. But that's separating now. It's still going to be in the same degree until about August 10th or 11th. But then around August 12th, the North Node is gonna move to the 17th degree. So you may see, I think we're definitely going to see a cooling off of the markets as that separates. Right now, we've got the moon in Scorpio, which is heading towards a conjunction with the very unfavorable South Node. And I think that's going to happen tomorrow. And I think that's also a very unfavorable short-term influence for markets. The bigger picture here is that Mars is approaching that square to Saturn. Mars is at 20 degrees Taurus, and it's approaching a square to Saturn at 22 degrees Aquarius. And that's a hard aspect between the two malefic planets. And that typically brings some pretty unfavorable news and world events. It's typically quite unfavorable for markets. During the Mars conjunction of Saturn, that was back on April 4th, and we saw those atrocities in the Ukraine as the Russian forces pulled back. So I'm thinking we could see something like that again. I hope I'm wrong about that. We also saw a major breakdown in the crypto markets right around April 4th, if you go back and look at the price charts. And I think we could see something like that again, in particular because that takes place almost exactly on the Bitcoin natal Neptune, which is also at 22 degrees. So this is specifically pretty bad for Bitcoin. So I think we are going to take a move down. The question is, I think, and already we've been down ever since Saturn hit 22 degrees on July 30th. We've already been down for 7 days in a row. So as I had predicted on here and on Twitter that we were going to see a major pullback for Bitcoin, you can see right here, July 29th was really when we got the last wick up. And then from then down, we've had basically 7 days in a row of selling on that Saturn aspect. And I think that's going to intensify around the 6th and the 7th over here as that Mars Saturn aspect becomes exact. And again, that's roughly around August 7th. Now, there is one favorable that might mitigate the situation, and that's Mercury having exaltation in the sign of Virgo. And Virgo's Mercury is going to be in favorable aspect to the Bitcoin natal chart, making a series of trine aspects. So that's favorable. That could mitigate some worst case scenarios. But Virgo isn't a very high confidence sign. So I don't think it's going to be that strong. I don't think it's going to outweigh the Mars Saturn square. Some astrologers have told me they think it is. I disagree. We'll see what happens. So that is the one favorable that I'm looking at there though. Now let's see what else is going on there. We're also going to get on August 8th, we're going to get an opposition of Venus to Pluto. Okay, so that's also a pretty big negative for markets. And then what happens is now that Mars Saturn square is going to happen on August 7th, but that doesn't mean the market will crash on August 7th. Sometimes it takes a couple of days to play out. So we have to see how that goes. Now we're also, especially for Bitcoin, we're in the more bearish moon phase. And that's going to culminate on August 11th when we have a very unique full moon, because Saturn is going to be, excuse me, the full moon is going to be conjunct Saturn. So that full moon comes in around 6 or 7 p.m. on August 11th. The fact that that full moon is conjunct Saturn tends to indicate, well, first of all, it's just kind of an unfavorable. I would look for, heavy, serious news events. I think the overall mood that week, especially those days around the new moon, will be kind of gloomy because Saturn is a very heavy, serious influence. And when you get a full moon, a lunation right on top of it, it tends to be quite gloomy, heavy, and serious. And for financial markets, you can see a lot of selling. You can see fear. You could even see a panic. So it's going to be interesting. And just in general, the full moons sort of tend to indicate, we've seen that full moons tend to have a relative bottom in the crypto markets. And there's often a sell-off into the full moon and a bounce coming out of the full moon, right? So it's like it's a pivot point. So I am expecting more selling to continue, especially between August 6th, 7th, and into August 11th, and the full moon there on conjunct Saturn. Now, after that, we enter a slightly more bullish moon phase. It could be a little more favorable. So I would look for a relative bottom somewhere around the 10th or 11th or 12th. Also on that day, Venus moves into Leo, which I think is somewhat favorable. So again, we could see, maybe we could see a market rebound there. There's a couple of general favorables, I think, on the 14th. We're going to have Mars is going to come into a trine to Pluto, and that tends to indicate confidence. Mars in Taurus is going to trine Pluto and Capricorn on the 13th and the 14th. So that tends to indicate a bit higher confidence. So that's a favorable. Then on the 18th, Venus is going to trine Jupiter, which is also favorable. So after the 11th, I think there's a couple of general favorables that could bring a rebound. Also on the 20th there, Mars is going to enter Gemini and stay there for the next 6 months. For Bitcoin specifically, we don't see we see a really mixed bag. I don't see anything that's extremely bullish. So while we may see a rebound, a local bottom, I think overall the market's quite sluggish. Just seasonality, August and September tend to be the 2 worst months of the year for stocks. And we know September is the worst month of the year for crypto as well. So just something to keep in mind as we head into August and September. And those macro factors are still pretty negative overall. And speaking of macro factors, what's interesting is right around that August 11th full moon, I think on August 10th is the next CPI print. So probably that is going to have a very strong effect on the markets. And I think, we'll see what happens there. That the moon, that full moon conjunct Saturn, I mean, it could be good for inflation in a way because Saturn represents limitations. So maybe those numbers come in a little bit lower. But we do think that full moon that's actually conjunct Saturn that next day is a very heavy, serious aspect that could, result in fear. So I'm looking for the markets to continue pretty much down into the 11th right now. So that's the overall situation for about the next couple of weeks. And of course, we'll do another update in the next week or two. And we'll look at, actually, I think my next update I'm going to look at some of the factors for the rest of 2022. I completed a full workup analysis on the rest of 2022, and it's not looking very good. I see a lot of really unfavorable astrological configurations, and I don't see a lot of favorable ones to counterbalance it. So I continue to remain quite skeptical of the current market rebound, and I am still leaning quite bearish for the rest of the year. And so we'll see what happens. And like I said, I'll do another update for you guys and go into more detail on some of that. But yeah, please check out my Patreon group. Check out my website at astrocryptoreport.com. And thanks for watching today. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your week and a good weekend. So I hope to see you soon.